Hi, this video is comparing Google's Bard with Palm2 to GPT-4 at ChatGPT. Now, before, when I compared these, when I compared Bard to ChatGPT, ChatGPT just blew it out of the water. It is pretty embarrassing, to be honest, for Google. They probably would have been better off not releasing anything at all, as it was pretty garbage. Recently, they upgraded the model that's behind it to Palm2. I don't remember what it was upgraded from because it doesn't really matter anymore. But so I thought it would be useful to really put it to the test. And I've done a lot of playing around, and I'm going to show you what I found. And there's some really interesting aspects here. And the first thing that I want to talk about is the fact that it's a bit of like comparing apples to oranges. It's actually sort of like comparing a sports car to a helicopter. They're actually quite different, built quite with different purposes in mind. So it's not really completely fair to compare them one-to-one. And the reason for that is that, first of all, there's two main reasons. The Palm2 has way less parameters. It actually has less parameters than GPT-3. Which you might say, oh, well, then it's clearly more dumb. Hold on, I'll explain. There isn't something that it does that is superior to GPT-4. But this is I think they're doing this for, it's much faster, it's much more lightweight, which allows them to do what, and this is, I'm going to put a link to two excellent videos on this subject, on some of the things I'm talking about, to do chain of thought prompting, where essentially they get the question, and then they try out different answers. So they call the language model multiple times, and then they actually use the language model to evaluate the responses. All right, this substantially improves the quality of the results. And so this is why they're able to get comparable in some areas to GPT-4, and better in some, and even some areas with a far smaller model. There is another video that was excellent on Tree of Thoughts, which is really cool and highly relevant to one of my projects, that goes a little bit even deeper. It's more like a brainstorming process. And I imagine if you put GPT-4 through this, then you would get much better results. Because right now what GPT-4 does is just this first one here. And Google is supposedly doing kind of like a chain of thought. This one has a little bit more complexity. You could even see when it gives responses, well, there's supposed to be, sometimes there's a, it'll give you, or is it just the last one? It'll give you some of the samples it got. View other drafts. I guess it's just on the last one. So you can actually see maybe some of the other ideas that it had, some of the other things that it maybe wanted to present to you. So these are not the same model. They're not going about things the same way. Bard is way faster. It tends to be better at translation, and it has a few other advantages. But while GPT-4 still, like when it comes to like the complexity, the richness of the responses, they do seem to be better. And I'll show you what I mean as we get a little deeper into it. So let's compare some actual prompts. So I asked it to brainstorm. What are some prompts that I can use to test? I don't like a lot of these. I shot a separate video on how to use ChatGPT to be more productive. So kind of some of the ways that we use ChatGPT. So I tried to cover all of these. I think the conventions one is the only one I didn't try, because they didn't really. These weren't not a lot of these were very good. In my opinion, and I don't think that they're fit use cases that I see for myself or for most people, but I'm sure there's tons of use cases I don't see. I don't like the summarizing the plot. I tried that, summarizing or see they had one. Well, I did it on a different computer where they asked to summarize the plot of like a movie. I don't really think that is a very good test of it. They both do a pretty good job of summarizing. There does seem to be, if we judge it just upon this response here, I like GPT-4's a little bit more. So let's actually give GPT-4 a point for this first initial set of questions. I feel like these are a little bit more hollow, a little bit more repetitive. There are a few good ones in here. I liked this one, and I feel like this is bad. This is okay. It's going to be kind of hard for me to judge. I'm not really an English teacher. I do feel like overall, they kind of did give me like how you compare them, which was actually my next question here. Well, how do I compare them? So it naturally gave that. So that's a little bit of an edge maybe to Bard. So maybe it's not quite, maybe we'll give them half a point, 0.5. Because they did go to the next question, but I still like the responses and the formatting. I like the fact that they bold this. It's kind of indented a little bit better. It's just easier to read. From that standpoint, I would give ChatGPT the edge over Bard. And just generally, I feel like the responses are more human, more well thought out, and less hollow. So better overall. But not a huge edge. Okay, so I did. Oh, it was summarize the plot of the movie, and I didn't really like that as a response. Explain. This was another. I think this was a thing that GPT-4 suggested. Kind of hard for me to judge this, so I will skip that. This was one of the ones that suggested write a short story about a robot that falls in love with a painting, and I just put it into Bard because I didn't have it in this window. Bard is much faster. That is a key thing. So if it's something that Bard does good, Bard is actually a better place to go because you just get the response faster. I don't, again, I'm not going to be good at judging that, but I'll put this up here for a second. You can pause the video and see what you think. I'm going to say it's a wash. But let's move on. Please write a rap about computer science in the style of Yoda. This is one that I like to test. I think it's good because it's kind of mixing not just the rap, and not just the topic, but also the style. And it was something that Bard definitely did not do nearly as well in my last test. Because it's kind of like Yoda has a very specific style that he talks in terms of like got Python, blah, 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 not just a few. Wait. And actually, it doesn't do as good of a job as in the world of tech. I'm the high roller because it's not really talking like Yoda. It's actually done better at this in the past. I'm not sure why it's not that good here. But I did do... Here we go. Yeah, it definitely didn't get this one. It's basically just a rap about computer science. Maybe by putting Yoda towards the beginning, it would make it more Yoda-like. Coding we do every day. See, even this still gives it better because Bard didn't do even a single bit of this. It does look like as it goes further and further, it gets more rap and less Yoda. Let's give Bard a point because it actually did do something, and it normally does a good job. I think if I were to put Yoda at the beginning, I'm confident it would be able to do a better job. Okay, so I also took a long article, and I did please summarize the above article. Oh, I wonder why. I did the same thing here. Well, they seem to give similar results. I like the bullet list more. Anytime you add formatting to something that is more than a sentence or two long, I think it improves the readability of it. So I'm actually going to give Bard a point here. I like it a little bit more. Okay, please generate 10 ideas for a simple, easy to run, highly automated e-commerce business. So this is like brainstorming. This is something I really like to use ChatGPT-4. In fact, I think it's to me the best use, kind of brainstorming things. Print-on-demand merchandise. I mean, this is okay. You kind of need to, when you have like a one-liner, the responses are not going to be good even in GPT-4. It's giving almost exactly the same thing. I wouldn't consider, I don't think advertising is e-commerce. Maybe it is. When I think of e-commerce, I think of selling physical stuff online. And this gives me more, it's very digital. This is this and this are the only digital things. I'm actually going to give GPT-4 a better answer, any point here, because I don't think it did quite as good. Now, I do like that it gives sources that I can just click right on. That's really, really helpful. We'll give them a point. So we can get on back onto whole numbers. We'll give them a point for that. Okay, write a joke that is funny to adults but not children. All right, here we go. Okay, GPT-4, they both explained why their joke was funny, but I feel like they both failed too. I like that. I think Bard actually did a little bit better of a job here. It went into more detail about why the joke is funny, but it might just be joke dependent. So I'm actually going to call it a wash, even though maybe Bard had slight advantage. Okay, here we go. Programming is something really good. I'd really try to put in a good prompt, because I think with programming, you need to give it a lot of detail to really get something good most of the time, unless it's something that's just really super well understood. I'm going to judge this as best I can. I don't really think I can completely judge it without actually taking it and trying to run it, and I would expect that there's going to be issues that I'm going to have to work through. So if this is something of interest, but I am going to be able to judge it to some degree. So let's see. Write a Python script that creates a chatbot with tree of thought reasoning. Again, tree of thoughts right here. I figured Bard might actually do a better job of this. The chat should have a simple GUI, and we want it to store the history basically so that I can go look at it. That's correct. We'll put it into here and just see if it works. Maybe it'll work right out of the gate. This is just a basic example. Can be modified to add more features. I can probably check to see if it's actually doing. So it's got the Tikinter. I don't know what that is. Okay, so it does create the GUI, and then I wanted to check to see if it actually does write a response. I'm not sure. Oh, I get it. But I don't think it's def submit question. I wonder if this will work. Let's give it a try. All right, here we go. We might need to pip install Kinter. Will that work? Okay, I had to look up the, I had to update my pip install, and then, here we go. And I had to, it was actually TK. Okay, it still doesn't work. Okay, so, has no attribute client. All right, I'm not going to continue to debug this that much. So it didn't work right out of the gate. Let's see if maybe this one can work right out of the gate. Copy code. So it is writing. It seems somewhat similar. Okay. Let me pause this while I put it into Notepad++, and then with my API key and everything. Okay, so that didn't work. And it was curious that Bard didn't have a place for the API key. Okay. So I'm unsure if it's actually going to do. Let's just see. So I'm actually having. I want to give it a hard riddle. So I'm having it actually list one. Okay. Please solve this riddle. So far, even though I wanted a GUI, this is still way better. It's actually doing something. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with the wind. What am I? Oh, weird. I had a typo, and it didn't get it right the first time. I got it right the second time. All right. Let's see if it's actually doing the chain of thought and storing the information. So it didn't actually plug in the tree of thought or chain of thought. Neither one of them did it. But this one is actually giving a response, and it's actually writing the message to file. And I actually found this file, conversation.txt, on my computer. And so I have to give this to GPT-4 for sure, because it worked right out of the gate. It didn't give me any errors. It didn't do exactly what I wanted, but it was a lot closer. And again, it worked, which is a huge difference. In that it did something. The other one just didn't do anything. It didn't work at all. Here's another one. Generating content, I think, is actually a useful thing for AI by a lot. You can use ChatGPT for it. Writing articles, or kind of first drafts of articles. So I asked it to write a 500-word article. I'm actually kind of curious how close it came. So we're going to put this in Word, and it'll tell us 578 words. So that's good. Let's check out. We'll keep the title out of it. It has had trouble, GPT-4, actually getting the word count right. So actually, they both got, I think, within what I would consider to be correct for 500 words. I like that this has kind of, again, different formatting here. It is an issue that their data set is older. So maybe some of the recently come out plugins can do a good job of accounting for that. But I like that with this one, it's actually using the most up-to-date information. And if it was the latest generation, I think I could look at the I could look at the kind of the sources. Okay, so I did scroll up, and there are sources. So it actually isn't going to provide any sources in this example. So that would be nice to have the sources, because it would just be good to to confirm information, to make sure that it didn't mix up some of what it actually thought was how the information works. It's pretty hard for me to evaluate how good are these ideas for improving LLMs. It does feel like GPT-4's though is just a bit more on point and creative and realistic. I'm gonna give them a point because they're just kind of, the more I look at this, the more it seems like it's answering the question that I'm really asking, while Bard is giving me a little bit more of surface answers and a little bit less detail and nuance. Okay, here's another thing that I'm actually looking to try to do, or looking into doing it as part of an initiative for 42 Robots, which is fighting misinformation and fake news. With the 2024 United States presidential election coming up soon, I'm very concerned. I feel like it's basically going to happen. There's going to be bad actors who are putting fake stories out there. There's already bad actors putting fake stories out there before ChatGPT. So I expect it to get pretty bad. And I think it would be really useful to have an AI to fight AI, or just to fight fake news, fake information, have something like that. I don't know if this is even doable. I'm going to assume it is for the sake of working on it, but brainstorm algorithms, and then what data sets can we use. So this is the algorithms. I don't really think this is algorithms. I think if we go to GPT-4, this was much more on point with the algorithms. I don't think it's quite what I was asking for, but what I'd probably do is dig through this, talk to the team, talk to my machine learning engineers, pick one, maybe two, and ask deeper, more detailed questions. I do think this is a much better answer. And then I asked for data sets, and I don't think I asked the question right, because they both got it kind of wrong in the way that, in the same direction, but actually I think they answered a better question, so I'm actually very happy with their results. They gave actual data sets that it sounds like I might actually be able to download and use. That would be really good. So I can actually go and find these articles labeled either real or false, and so maybe there's some way, maybe this data will be very helpful in actually training a large language model just to spot like fake news stories. So they both did a good job here. Bard and Palm2 went a little deeper, and they answered a question that I wasn't asking, but sometimes that is useful, as we saw in the very first response. It actually was kind of my next question. They went ahead and answered it, which is kind of good and bad. Sometimes you just want just some information and nothing else. But sometimes there's thoughts that you didn't, things that you should have asked, or that would have been useful to ask, that you didn't think to ask. And so I like this, because if I'm not interested in this, which I'm actually not interested in this right here, I can just scan it real quick and ignore it. So I do think this is good. Overall, though, the additional information is like not that useful. So I'm actually going to give a point to GPT-4, and maybe we'll give a half a point to the Bard for that. We might have given them some other points for that before, but we'll give them a half a point because they went a little further, even though it wasn't what we wanted. So then I thought I would give it a brain teaser, and I pulled that from the other one. What's the correct answer? Did it give the correct answer? And Bard kind of wigged out with this. It's more, let's call it a math problem, a math word problem. I'm not sure what it's doing here. It kind of mashed together some of my previous responses, and then it finally sought to answer it, and actually gave the wrong answer. The correct answer is 30 cents. So, and then this one actually did get the response. So we're going to give this a point. We're going to take half a point from Bard because it literally bugged out there. And there was another one. Robot. Here we go. It's a little bit out of order in the two different conversations. This is another point for GPT-4. When you read this, so once upon a time there was a robot named Ava. Ava was a very special robot. This is like writing for children, so maybe this is better if you're going to try to write a children's story. Maybe use Bard instead of GPT-4, as opposed to when we go into GPT-4. There's more nuance to language. Look, there's more commas. There's more variation in the style of the text. You know how he started to feel in quotes. That's something really expressive. I feel like this is just way, way closer to how an actual human would respond. All right, that is all that we're going to test here, but we're going to do a few kind of bigger picture things. I'm going to give Bard a point for being very fast. So it gives a point for being very fast, but also I'm going to give ChatGPT a point. As much as I think that there's a lot of improvement that could be done on their user interface, it just blows Bard out of the water. There's no history with Bard. Or I guess you have Bard activity, but it's not quite the same thing. So let's click on Bard activity. I can kind of see this. Can I see if I click details? Like, I don't. This is just weird. This is not how I can't reference this in the past. So the ability. So let's say, from a practical standpoint, using this for your job, ChatGPT is superior. It gives better answers overall. But also I think it's important to be able to have some kind of wrapping around this that isn't just model in out or algorithm in out to where I can see past conversations. Again, I think this should be organized a lot better with searches and stuff like that. If you are familiar with my hyperprompt software that's about to come out, then I'll show you. Stay tuned. Next week or two, we should have some information on that with some videos and showing like a more efficient way to use ChatGPT. Anyway, so I think it is a very strong. Sorry, Google. As far as I can tell, can't move this over. As far as I can tell, GPT-4 with ChatGPT and Bard with Palm2. GPT-4 smashes Bard for all sorts of different use cases, and I would still recommend it. So they're still behind the 8 ball, but maybe there's just different use cases for Bard, being faster, more lightweight, being able to have that chain of thought. Maybe if they update it to tree of thought, maybe that's not really practical with GPT-4 because it would just get pretty expensive. GPT-4 is far more expensive and slower, so. If that's your use case, then maybe Bard is for it. But I'd say for most people who are using ChatGPT, I don't think you should switch. So that's my opinion. Thank you very much. Let me know what you think. Give me a like if you like it. Subscribe for more awesome videos like this. And hope you have a great day. Bye.